fellow travelers, welcome on in. This is the 142nd level of the RPG Cave. I'm one of your hosts, the level 199 human Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 elf battle alchemist, Dr. Garret Bland. How's it going, Garret?
I'm doing good. Actually, I feel afflicted right now. I don't know why. I just felt the need to rub my eye for like the past 5 minutes, and I don't know why I needed to do that. But when I keep scratching my eye, it keeps wanting to itch more. You ever had that sensation, that feeling that you just scratch your eye because you're tired or you're irritated or whatever, but it just keeps going and going.
100%. It's usually for me, and it's an allergies thing. Like,
it's an allergies for me too.
Yeah, because like. Yeah. My allergies are going crazy right now, Garret, because the weather is just all over the place. We're
it's like warm over there, apparently.
We're heading into a heat wave this week where it was like, it's supposed to be, feels like 42 degrees Celsius.
That's
tomorrow.
Insane. In Canada, 42 degrees.
That's with the Humidex. It's going to be 35.
Okay.
But feels like 42.
That's still pretty hot for Canada.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
To do the old comparison, because of course,
do the math for me.
That means it's going to feel like it's 107 degrees.
That's
Fahrenheit.
Insane. That's like you better have AC or you'll die in a building. Yeah. Well, keep yourself safe. Keep yourself, other people safe. Be inside. Living and growing up in Texas, I'm sure I always hear at least. Some like a news report or whatever is like, hey, someone died of heat stroke. Like every summer, literally every summer, it's like, yeah, there's about maybe 27 people died from heat stroke. So heat is no joke. Be inside, and it's gonna get worse, unfortunately.
No, most I'm going to be outside tomorrow, Garret, is the 5 minutes it takes to walk to the train station, and then the 10 minutes it takes to walk from the train station to work.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That will be the most I'm outside because because I'm just gonna hit the treadmill when I get home instead of going for a walk or something.
Yeah, If you think you can run in this heat, you really can't. Don't even try. Just be inside.
This is one of those hot occasions, Garret, where like I'm usually like sad that my office is always super cold. I always have to bring a hoodie with me to work because it's so cold in my office. But this is one of those times where I'm like, yeah, it's really cold in my office. Let's go. I'm excited. Like I'm doing a 12-hour shift tomorrow at work, so.
And you have AC in all the buildings, right?
Of course.
Like that you've been in. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I got AC here, but the nice thing is, Garret, I'm on the 29th floor of my apartment, which you wouldn't think
out of how
would
many
be an
floors?
advantage. 30 floors and a penthouse.
Well, it sounds like it's gonna be hot up there, but keep on
actually, it's the opposite. It's like I haven't had to turn on the air conditioner yet.
That's
it's
interesting.
Been cool in my apartment.
Is it because you open the windows and the wind?
I haven't even had to do that.
Oh.
I mean, I've don't get me wrong. I still open them, but it's like, it's never because it's warm in here or anything like that. Like, yeah.
That's interesting because normally heat rises, so it's like warmer in upper floors versus.
That's what I thought was going to happen too. That's why I was like already with my air conditioner, like ready to go. I read the manual because it has this really weird display on it. And
does it come with the apartment? It's like its own thing.
Does.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
But so I was all ready to set it up, and I'm like, I haven't even had to touch it yet. So yeah, I got prepared for that.
I had to buy an external AC unit, 2 of them in Pittsburgh. So that was a thing over there, and then even our first apartment in San Francisco, no AC. You're like, no, you're good, and you really were good. Most like 363 days out of 365. So
right, because it's like fall weather the whole year, right? So it's just
basically light sweater jacket weather the whole time. It's kind of insane, but
my brother's place in Vancouver is like that too, where it's like
it's that sea breeze or something. Going on. Anyways, I guess this is a podcast about RPGs. So.
We literally just spent 5 minutes talking about the weather, Garret, and allergies.
I love it.
So
it's great stuff. But I do have 3 things. I want to go through these 3 things real quick. Phil Spencer, in an interview with Ryan McCaffrey over at IGN right after their glorious Xbox showcase, which was amazing. Phil really teased. It wasn't a tease, man. He said it. He said it. We want an Xbox handheld. It's like we want to do something like that. And Ryan even clarified, it's like, do you mean streaming or do you mean native? He's like, I love my ROG Ally. I love my Steam Deck. I want that kind of capability. And I was like, there we go. Xbox handheld is coming in later this year. I think they'll announce it later this year or something. But anyways, that's
I was gonna say, like, it'd be weird to release it this year, but not
release it. Yeah, I wouldn't release it this year actually. With their new, they got their new models or whatever. That's like $200 more expensive or whatever.
Not only that, but we also keep hearing like Xbox wants to do its next console in 2 years. So
it's true.
Maybe next year is the time that they do that, or like maybe they time it with the next console. Maybe it waits 2 years.
Maybe I would think they would have to ride the next handheld Ryzen chip wave, like with Steam Deck 2 and ROG Ally 2. They're gonna just, I think they'll all be kind of very similar time frame because of just the bids for the AMD chips in general. So, but anyways, I'm excited. I can't wait.
Nice.
Second thing, I'm almost done with Prey. I am. I'm like at the end of the storyline. I've looked it up. I'm at the very end, but man, there's so many side quests in there. I like to do everything in that game. So.
You're just like, I could get to the end, or I could just do these 8 things over there.
Yeah, I have to kill an imposter cook. He posed himself as the cook, but he really wasn't. He was actually a subject volunteer for a human experiment, and I still have to kill him. There's just so many things to do in Prey. It's kind of crazy how immersive sim / like you get totally sidetracked and totally interactive. The whole playground is in Prey. Super good. I really enjoy it. Third thing, Juneteenth. You ever heard of Juneteenth?
I have heard of Juneteenth,
Ryan?
Garrett.
Well, we have off on Wednesday because of Juneteenth, so that's a great thing. It's a weird thing because I'm off Wednesday and then I have to come back to work Thursday. It's one of those in the middle of the day, or a day in the middle of the week type of holidays.
It's one of those ones where they are strictly on that specific day.
Yes,
regardless
June
of what
19th.
day of the week it is.
Yes. And if you know your history, June 19th is, it was the day that, we all know that, we don't all know. U.S. history, okay? Abraham Lincoln kind of announced that all the slaves were freed, Emancipation Proclamation, but only until I think this is one of the very last areas to get notified was in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, I believe. So we celebrate that as kind of the final notice of slaves being freed in the U.S. So there you go. A little bit of U.S. history right there.
That's good. I mean, again, I like holidays like that. I think that's a good thing to celebrate.
Yeah. Definitely. It's a good mark of history for sure.
Yeah.
But,
so
cool.
there you go.
I'm
Check
done.
it to Juneteenth this week. That's why, like, it was weird because, like, a lot of people were speculating that we wouldn't maybe see the Nintendo Direct this week because it's Juneteenth. Because I guess they decided to do it the day before, which is
they just decided to announce it on the day before for the Direct and decided to put it on the day before June 19th, June 18th. So there you go.
Yeah, just in time for your holiday weekend, I guess. Maybe we'll play some shadow drops from the Nintendo Direct.
That would be interesting. A shadow drop from Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Maybe.
I mean, they had Pikmin 1 and 2 last year, Garrett.
Hollow Knight Silk Song. Let's go.
We'll talk about it later because we actually have a question about the Nintendo Direct a little bit later in the show. So we'll at least talk about it. Although, fun fact, if you're listening on literally any audio feed for this show, you already know what happened because
I can't believe
when the show goes up. Yeah.
The new Pokemon game got released.
Please. We know, you and I both know that they're not having
Luigi's Mansion 4D come out. You literally have to punch through the screen in order to interact with the game.
One of the guys I work with, who's like one of our games writers, Garrett, he keeps telling me he thinks the Shadow Drop's going to be a remake of Link's Adventure from the NES, my favorite Zelda game.
A remake of that?
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, that would be awesome. I don't.
We getting a 2D Zelda game? Is that it? Another 2D Zelda game
but
instead of Wind Waker?
It's a different 2D Zelda game because it's Zelda 2, so it's side scrolling. It's not top down.
Oh gosh.
I mean, I would love that. I've wanted that for years for them to go back to Zelda 2. But yeah. Anyways, we should probably clear the dungeon so we can get to the raid boss as quickly as possible. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of amazing ways you can do that. Number one, if you're watching the show right meow, right youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video man later, don't forget to hit that like button, smash kick that subscribe button, and let us know in the comments below what you think about the 3 RPGs we're going to talk about: Avowed, Visions of Mana, and Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Are you excited about them? Let us know. Also, I'm going to give a shout out because, of course, we are now, Garrett, doing the show over on X as well. So if anyone's watching over on X, make sure to like the tweet. Maybe retweet it. Tell your friends that we talk about role-playing games on
Hello,
Twitter.
everyone.
Yeah. I mean, there's 16 people watching right now, so over on X. So
Interesting.
yeah, X. So shout out to X. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to rate us there if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or just subscribing to the podcast. That helps the podcast go a long way. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. We got a lot of exclusive content over there, including the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast, this week starring Seth. But then we also made the announcement that Fee is making her debut this week. So we put up her questions post.
Super cool.
Over there on the old Patreon, as well as we have other stuff on Patreon, including our Summer Game Fest reactions, a whole bunch of other good stuff over there. And last but not least, our website, carpoolgaming.com, where we have all of our merch, including an RPG Cave t-shirt, or until the end of the month, our Summer Game Fest merch is still on sale with Poolside Bobby. Please,
I'm going to buy one.
Please go check it out over there.
That will be mine.
We got a cool tank top. We got a cool mug. We got just a normal logo t-shirt. We got, Poolside Bobby just hanging out by his lonesome.
Designed by Fee herself.
Designed by Fee. So definitely head on over there to carpoolgaming.com. All right, without further ado, Garrett, it is now time to read from the sacred texts. Because it's interesting, because I almost was like, this week I'm like, do we wait for the Nintendo Direct, or do we talk more about these Summer Game Fest announcements? But, with these last 3 Summer Game Fest announcements that we didn't talk about on the last show, well, we're kind of updating 2 of them, and then one of them is brand new. We're getting we got these like big kind of deep dive looks on some of these games. We figured
we really did. We're
gonna deep dive some of these games, and talk about them in detail. I mean, we got some awesome new details about some of these games, including a big sample of gameplay for 2 of them, which they were, of course, the 2 that really needed it, because they were the 2 that people were most skeptical about. So
right.
We're going to kind of dive through each one and kind of talk about, and then of course we'll go to your questions as well. So let's start with Avowed, Garrett, which got a big 30-minute gameplay showcase as part of the Xbox podcast. I guess what they decided to do this year was they featured like 6 or 7 games on the Xbox podcast, and they did, varying length of segments that they released individually over on Xbox's YouTube page. But Avowed got like a 30-minute segment just showing off the game with the game's director, and of course Tina Amini, just hanging out and just talking about the game and showing off some of the choices and the exploration and stuff like that. So overall, Garrett, what did you think about the gameplay showcase? Did this change your thoughts about Avowed?
Did it change my thoughts? I think so. Yeah, for the better. This was a great showcase of the game. I think it showed a lot more detailed in terms of the flow of, like, let's say a quest line or a story to go through Avowed, and just went through all the different little systems, your approaches to a certain quest line, the dialogue choices. I think everything we've seen in that game got that Obsidian trademark for sure. Yeah, you can see the sword fighting over there. Actually, I think they kind of improved that combat. I want to note that for sure. The slashing and hacking it looks a little bit more responsive, a little bit better than what we've seen before back in the developer direct. It looks really great, and also this is in first person. They did announce that you can also play this in third person mode. The combat actually reminds me of Elder Scrolls Online, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually a pretty solid set of mechanics there with the area of effect and the slashing. The only thing that's missing here, and I'm sure they're just not doing anything on purpose is really the lack of HUD. I think they're just doing it for presentation wise. I'm sure there will be a HUD. But yeah, overall,
I think that they
really
just haven't
impressed.
had like the HUD finished. I think that's kind of what's going on here. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not finalized yet, or maybe they
Gotcha.
just don't want to show it off yet. And then if they change it later, then they don't want people.
Yeah,
doing this.
yeah, man. So I was overall very impressed with this this deep dive of Avowed and going through the approaches to the characters, but also your companions. But we can go through each individual thing later. But Ryan, what do you think of Avowed?
Same. I was equally impressed. Like honestly, to your point, Garrett, like the combat looks more like an Elder Scrolls game, but it really felt like it almost felt like just Outer Worlds, like the same vibe I got from Outer Worlds in so many ways. Just less kind of comedic, I think, from the stuff they had there. Although they had like the very flirty party character, that they wanted to show off that you can in fact flirt with her, and then she's like, "Oh, I actually have a boyfriend already." And
of course,
he carries a louder around them with them because the whole dialogue was like, "Oh,
good for her." I guess
how they were just like, "Well, how could don't you just carry a ladder around with you everywhere whenever we need to get up and get a specific item?" And she was very surprised that we didn't.
Yes, she was very surprised we didn't carry a ladder all around. So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, so I like the dialogue again. It's not super serious or anything like that, but it is definitely more on the serious side than something like Outer Worlds seems to be. And I also, one of the things I appreciated in the deep dive, Garrett, was that they showed both sides of the same quest to show what happens if you make this one decision versus if you do a different decision, where there's like this whole escape sequence if you do it one way and you're trying to get away from the quest giver, or they're all super friendly to you because you did it a different way. So.
Yeah, you can be brash and very aggressive and approach them just head on, and you would have to fight them in this quest line or whatever. And the other way is that you could just be as sneaky as you want and kind of hide and make sure you get to your quest point or whatever, and then you'll have a different outcome, much more peaceful or whatever. That was super cool to see that. And we talked about combat. I do see the skill tree a little bit. So we got
that's right.
3 skill trees. We got Ranger, Wizard, and Fighter. Those are like kind of your 3 major branches of skill points. Then you also have Godlike and Companions. Now, Godlike is the race, not the race. It's a special kind of people in Pillars of Eternity where the gods have touched them in certain ways. So your character in Avowed is godlike, but you don't know which god has like connected with you or blessed you with the godlike abilities. But they said in the podcast you're gonna figure it out as you go throughout the game. It's like one of those mysteries, like. Because all godlike people know where their lineage is, but your main character doesn't. So, and actually, I don't know if you can find it in the timestamp. It's gonna be pretty hard, actually. You can even see your character where the aesthetic of godlike is like, it's like a coral or sea. It reminds me of like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like you got that coral sea-like type of influence on your face. It could be parts of your face, and there we go, you got it. Dang, Ryan. Yeah, you see it's like
it's like coral.
It's like coral. It's literally like coral, but you can make it as subtle or as kind of out there as you want it to be, and depending on the people you interact with, they'll interact with you differently if they know you're a godlike or not. So I think that's cool. I think they put a lot of thought into
because they talked about the idea like you could like put the coral in an area that's like hidden by your clothes, and then people wouldn't actually know that you're a godlike by looking at you. So that they treat you differently as well. They might just think you're a normal person if you create your character in an interesting way. They also talked about the dialogue really. The choices that are available to you, for example, that are different depending on like your character creation and other stats and things like that, which there are always persuasion skills in all these types of games, especially Obsidian games, but it was cool to know like your character creation plays into it a little bit too as well, like how you design your characters look.
Yeah, character creation. Also, the way you build your character in terms of your skills can open up different explorative techniques as well. Because they had one at one point they put a fire flame ability spent into the skill tree, and then they were able to burn out some vines that blocked an obstacle. Which was kind of cool.
Yeah, this was kind of what we were showing off a little bit earlier with the combat,
Yeah.
because it's the same skill, just
Exactly.
not using the vines, essentially.
Yeah, and then she also mentioned, okay, and as you said, there was a different approach, sneaking. So the way they built their character for that is they had a shadow invisibility skill for the ranger. So you're able to hide behind or go around monsters with this ability. So yeah, there's just however you build it, and you can take different approaches, that's all I want out of these type of games. It's super cool to see in action.
Especially like given the amount of playtime that they talked about, where this is going to be on the shorter side of things they talked about. I think it's good for replay value to have like a lot of like the different options available. So like it gives you a reason to go back and play the game differently.
Yeah. And it seems like one thing I haven't seen a lot with these action open world RPGs is the way combat, especially for the slashing part of it, how you have a weaker weapon. Well, that means these monsters is gonna be harder to hit. Like it's like literally like almost bouncing off of them.
Oh yeah, they showed it well with these mushrooms.
With those mushrooms. Yeah. So because you had a lighter weapon or a lower grade weapon, they weren't flinching as much. They were bouncing off of them. But as you get, they like crafted a new sword. They were actually literally slashing and bleeding the mushrooms, little guy monsters later on. So
yeah, because it looked weird that it took so many slashes to take out the mushrooms at the beginning. But then when the director came in and explained, no, it's because you're using a specific type of weapon. And it's not powerful, so it's the combination of both. But that's why it was taking forever. We wanted to show the kind of the differences between the different types of equipment. I thought that was cool.
Overall, really neat. It also set in the Pillars of Eternity universe, so the lore's already been made. It's just kind of in a new context. So.
But also, she was explaining too that that even though it's in the universe, it's not tied to any of the other Pillars of Eternity games or anything like that. There are some crossover characters from other Pillars of Eternity games, but it's not like it's like I feel like it's a good starting point because like I haven't played those games.
Yeah, and a lot of people haven't played those games, so yeah, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so I think like this probably is like a good gateway to get into the Pillars of Eternity universe as well.
Is Pillars of Eternity more action RPG or is it more Baldur's Gate?
It's more Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like it's a CRPG through and through.
It is. Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, this is the first time they've tried a genre outside of just CRPG for Pillars of Eternity. Anyway.
Yeah, so I think that's cool. And I think it translates well because, they've been working on Outer Worlds. So, yeah, it looks great. So I can't wait. I'm like, at first, I was kind of skeptical, especially after Developer Direct, just because I think they just really focus too much on just the mechanics, I guess, or the combat in certain aspects. But man, when I saw this gameplay demo, it kind of really turned it around for me. So yeah, I'm excited.
I just got a chance to sit down and watch it today for the first time, Garret. And I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I am very excited for the game. And it's a game we were already excited about, but I know like a lot of people were skeptical about Avowed. Like a lot of people just weren't really into it with like some of the combat we saw during the Developer Direct, or even with the story trailer that we saw during the Xbox showcase. People were still like really skeptical of this game. Whereas, showing off, I think they showed off a good enough chunk of gameplay where I know what to expect with that game. And I know to get excited about it.
I am completely sold. So yeah, I will probably won't watch anything else. Actually, speaking of watching stuff, did you see the Metaphor Refantasio showcase, the second one?
I did not, because I didn't want to watch any more because I was already good.
Yeah, me neither. I did not watch it either. I watched like maybe like 3 minutes of it, and I'm like, okay, I understand this. Like we don't need We don't need to go through this.
Lots of people, though, Garrett, came away because I guess people didn't watch that first showcase. I talked to a lot of people that only saw that showcase and were like, "Whoa, that game looks awesome." So, I think it actually
always looked awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that the last time we talked about the first showcase because we both saw that. I think we both watched that showcase at the same time, and we're just like, "That's awesome." So, yeah. It looks like a great game. I can't wait for Metaphor as well. Again, there's lots of good RPGs probably this fall.
Yeah, so. It's coming in hot this year. There's a lot of great RPGs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So the next one I want to quickly talk about before we get to Dragon Age, I want to get this one out of the way because it's definitely the shortest one because we only got a 4-minute kind of gameplay release date kind of trailer. It's Visions of Mana because we finally got the release date. It's coming out on August 29th, so it's coming out in 2 months. This game.
That's crazy.
And it looks really cool.
It looks cute. It's a very cute game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's very much a callback to other Mana games because the other Mana games are all very cutesy. And I've always really liked that about these games. But also just the artwork and the soundtrack in particular. I love the art design that goes on, especially the poster for Legend of or for Visions of Mana, showing off all the characters looking up at the Mana tree with the red birds up there, just big callbacks to the Secret of Mana box art. It looks so cool. But this trailer was cool because it introduced all the different playable characters.
Yes.
And just like the other Mana games, you're going to be able to form a party of 3 out of the characters that you have to work with. And depending on what characters you select, there are branches in the storyline or the quest line, but they didn't really go into too much detail about how that's going to work. But I imagine it's not as in-depth as something maybe as Trials of Mana because you actually, in this game, recruit all the characters regardless of which characters you want to have in your party. But it does sound like you're going to have an assortment of characters that'll change up the gameplay and the storylines a little bit. So, but the combat looks great. And also I love to just like all the Mana games, all the characters look really unique with their combat styles. You've got the more of the sorcerer ranged kind of class that we're watching now. We've got Morley, who is more of the sword fighting kind of character. You've got the hero, of course, who's more like the sword and board kind of character. So they all kind of play very differently, which I've always really appreciated about the Mana games. And the combat, of course, it's action based combat. It's very similar to something like Tales, where you've got you're doing basic attacks. You've got abilities on cooldown, and then you have these big ultimate moves that deal a bunch of damage. So the combat looks like it's going to be.
I like that character the best, the one that does all the plants and roots.
Yeah, she's like a fairy, one of the sprite characters, the fairy.
Yeah,
characters.
She looks uber powerful. She's just spread around. It's I'm gonna bring up some tree vines and destroy monsters. So. And
what they're showing off here, since we're watching the trailer for audio listeners, is they're showing off all of the class changes as well, because what a big thing in the Mana games is you recruit all the elementals into kind of your group to power up the mana tree, and each one of the characters can go in 2 branching character classes that then branch into 2 more different character classes that then branch into 2 more character classes, and
that's
you have
insane.
And each one has a budget is tied to a specific elemental attribute that then gives you these crazy abilities depending on what direction you go in.
So is there 16 different variations of each character? Is that what you're saying? Oh my goodness.
And the top 4 are usually the light based ones, the good ones, and then you've got evil side ones. Dark ones. Yeah.
Okay. Does that change how the story goes, or is it just kind of for just skills and characters?
That's just for skills and stuff like that too. And there are again, in Trials of Mana, they played with it a little bit in the story. I don't know how they're going to deal with it this time around, but they showed all again the advanced classes did look really cool.
It looks really good.
Some of the abilities.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm just really impressed by the animations of this game. It looks very colorful, very lively. They really put some thought into the character design and the skills in the animations themselves. I'm not a day one purchase for this one, by the way, but
yeah, it's on your radar at least.
It's on my radar. It makes me want to look back. It's I guess I do need to go through Trials of Mana at some point. That's the game I would probably go through first. But yeah, no, it looks very. You know what really reminded me of the aesthetic and the action and everything? It looks like MapleStory but 3D. That's what it reminds me a lot, especially being all cutesy, very chibi like, and then also all the different classes and skills along with it. So I'm enticed. I'm
gonna just go ahead and just nod my head and say sure, because I know nothing about MapleStory, so I'm just gonna assume everything.
Seth knows what I'm talking about. Let's go, Seth. MapleStory. Yes,
I know Seth, the only other person I know who's played MapleStory. That's not true. I know other people who played MapleStory. Yeah. Either way, coming out August 29th. It's gonna be out very soon. I am very, very excited for it.
August 29th. Yeah, that's pretty good.
It'll be one of the games I sink some serious time into after like the Dawn Trail wave kind of hits me.
It's coming out on Xbox, and Trials of Mana wasn't on Xbox.
It was not. Right? This is the very first Mana game to come out on Xbox.
And you know what? Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is out on Xbox. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it.
I'm just happy that it released just for that, just for an Xbox release.
Did you also see, Garrett? The reviews are in, and it I think it scored even higher than the original.
Yeah, I know it's scoring so, because everyone's like, "Oh, this is a great game." Like, yeah, we played it 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, they even like the quality of life improvements that they put into just the original story mode look like a just huge improvement on its own. Yeah, and then you've got the Vengeance story that just looks like it's awesome. So
yeah. Apparently that's the correct story. That's the version that the creator wanted all along. He just didn't decide to do it for the first game. So yeah.
That's one where I was like really eyeing it, Garrett. I was like, man, if Dawn Trail wasn't coming up, this would be. I would play. I would play through the Vengeance storyline because it looks really cool. But
yeah, because you haven't played Shin Megami Tensei 5 yet, nope. Right?
I own the collector's edition for it, but I have not played it.
Okay. Well, just wait for Vengeance then. And now at this point, I'm sure it'll be on sale later this year or something like that. So
no, that's what I plan to do. Especially after everything you told me about the Switch version too. I'm like, I don't want to go play it there.
No, it makes sense.
I'm gonna play on my totally PlayStation. And likewise, I had the similar feeling with Monster Hunter Stories this week, Garrett, because I talked about PlayStation Drive where I played the trials for Monster Hunter Stories. I'm like, this game's awesome, and it looks really good on PlayStation 4. So.
It's good on 3DS as well, but yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, but
that's super cool.
At least you can play Monster Hunter Stories too and go into the towns and it not run at like 10 frames a second.
You're right. You're 100% right. That was rough on the Switch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
All right, and the last one, Garrett, that we'll talk about before we get to listener inquiries is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Of course, we got the 20-minute gameplay reveal after the trailer that we talked about on last week's show. That people were not.
Yeah, everyone was just like, "What is going on with this Fortnite looking weird Dragon Age game?" But
I think the bigger for me, it wasn't even like the looks. I was okay with like the more cartoony graphics, but it was the tone, the tonal shift from what we were used to Dragon Age. Where Dragon Age is always like more of a serious story. That was like the thing that got it for me, where it was like trying to be like the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and that was not the tone of Dragon Age for me. So that's the thing that made me like not as excited about it. But then, Garrett, we got this 20-minute gameplay showcase, which we're showing off now, and this looks awesome. This looks like Dragon Age, but just an action RPG version of Dragon Age, which I'm totally fine with.
It does, yes, for sure.
Yeah. So of course you play as Rook, who is they showed like a rogue version of Rook in the gameplay showcase, and of course you're meeting up with Varric, who's one of the old characters from Dragon Age, because he's been in the Dragon Age story since 2, I believe.
Okay.
And because he's always kind of been weaved in and out of the hero story to the point where he was actually a playable character in Dragon Age Inquisition for the first time. But of course you're in the city and it's overrun by these demons and you're trying to stop Solus, who's this bit that kind of like was set up as the big bad, or at least he was before when it was called Dreadwolf, because that's kind of his nickname. And it was cool. And one of the things they actually hinted at in later interviews, they talked about the origin stories from Dragon Age Origins returning. And I don't know, I think we've talked about this before, right, Garrett? The origin stories from Dragon Age Origins, where depending on what race and background your character had, you had one of 6 different intros to the game.
Yes,
like the first 3 hours of the game were completely different.
I still find that insane, but yes, I remember.
Yeah, because they talked about in interviews, like that was something that people always asked them to do, but they didn't do that for Dragon Age 2 or Inquisition. But they hinted at the fact that they're back in this game, and this is like this one that we're watching in the showcase is part of like the Shadow Dragon background. Because that's the Shadow Dragon
is the background for your character. Okay.
Yeah, for this particular character here. So I think, but I mean, I wonder how different they'll be if because this one has, you know, main story characters and it ties in with the main story. I wonder how different it'll be if you have like a different background and how that'll play out, or if there's like a whole section before this that we haven't seen yet that's different depending on which background you have. So
yeah,
it'd be really interesting to see how that played out. I do have some nitpicks though, and maybe it's just because they had like a level 1 character that they were showing off here, where the character basically had one skill that he was just waiting for it to charge.
That's it. Yeah.
Over and over again. And then I saw like you just always saw him just do a couple of attacks and then automatically dodge backwards and then dodge forwards again and then start attacking again. And I don't know, like doing that every 2 seconds kind of looked weird to me.
It did,
as far as the combat goes.
Very much an action RPG or an MMO action RPG in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was hinted at in the demo, going back to just the Shadow Dragon background. The one of the companions was like, "Oh, you're in this region. Why don't you navigate?" And he's like, "Oh, this country is too big, or this place is too big. I can't tell where I'm supposed to go." Maybe if it with a different background, there'd be a different dialogue choice with it, or is it going to be a completely different setting? That would be pretty interesting too. But I find it hard to believe. It was a very production heavy beginning here.
That's why I feel like even though this is a level 1 character, I almost feel like there's a section before this that we haven't seen yet. That is unique depending on which one you have. But it was the detective character that was a member of the Shadow Dragon as well.
Yeah. So, anyways, as you said, action RPG. Just think of that, right? It doesn't look like you're gonna stand still. You're not gonna freeze frame and look at all your individual party characters and then do commands or whatever. It looks like you are this character. Mm-hmm. And
you can't switch to other companions. They confirm that in interviews afterwards, which is a first in the series because you've always been able to play as the other characters in your party.
That's true. Yeah. So it's a pretty interesting diversion. Maybe it's a safer bet to really just explore one character for you. I think it's gonna be fun though. Like it looks good. Like the action looks pretty well made. The animations look good. I think it's interesting to see the double sword and see how agile that is against monsters and stuff like that.
Again, he's a rogue, so he's like going to be agile based. Like, in fact, like in the previous Dragon Age games, the rogues they would usually either be split between using ranged abilities or having like 2 daggers. And then
it looks like a dagger and a long sword in this case.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
and maybe there's different like maybe you can mix and match the weapon types in this as well.
Yeah.
Maybe you could have 2 daggers to even have even faster attacks, or maybe 2 long swords to have like slower attacks but dealing a little bit more damage, but still being more agile than like a 2-handed warrior or something like that.
Yeah, I only played Dragon Age Origins and I don't even remember much of that now. Is there like a class and then a background? So your background has its own set of skills and then you have a different class, or is it kind of just melded together?
You have like basically one of 3 main classes, and then there are subclasses to start of those. And then as you go through the story, you then eventually will unlock an even like a subclass on top of that, or like a class change of some kind. It's different in each game how that they go about doing that. Mm-hmm. Like for example, in the very first game, if you were a wizard, you could become like one of 4 different types of wizards, and there's one called the Blood Mage, which is like almost like an evil wizard that uses blood magic. And the way you get that is you go to this one specific location and do this quest where you drink this blood that you're not supposed to drink of this like ancient demon, which then allows you to use this extra damage, this extra magic ability. But if you do that, your party members that are good will turn on you, and you have to fight them and kill them.
My
or else they'll
goodness.
kill you. Yeah, it's this whole thing that was like super cool for that game, and they did that with a bunch of different classes in the first Dragon Age. But then they normalized it, I think, in the 2 and 3. So they might go back to that again. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, but they're always showing off like a variant here with the. It's not just a normal mage. The detective here is an ice mage, which is she's just all
very
about
specific.
ice powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Super
curious
cool.
to know how that is going to work. But
Yeah, I think it looks great. It's not going to be, Dragon Age Inquisition that people or even Origins. It looks like very action heavy RPG, but it looks fun to me. It has that Dragon Age trademark where you go through dialogue choices and you have companions to approve or disapprove your decisions there. It's a linear story in a way. So yeah, I think I think it looks great.
Yeah.
And looking forward to seeing more.
believe it or not, Garrett, the game that this actually reminds me the most of system-wise from BioWare is Jade Empire in a lot of ways.
Oh, interesting.
This one character. It's through and through an action RPG, but then you kind of have that same radial menu that stops time like they showed off here.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of similarities to how Jade Empire plays when you compare it to this game. So I'm really curious to know if that comparison is going to be much more valid when we get the game. But yeah, I'm very excited just to find out when it comes out, because it's just kind of like Avowed, because I forgot to mention when we talked about Avowed, but they're both, this and Avowed are just 2024. That's it. No dates.
Wait, so Dragon Age is this year?
Yeah, it's this year.
That's a hard to believe one. Avowed, I'm more believable in, but Dragon Age, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see.
That 20 minutes, Garrett, looked pretty polished.
It looks polished, yes, for sure. I'm also curious about Dragon Age is this is the setup. What's gonna be the core of this game? I don't think we know that at this point.
We don't.
It's just a very beginning. Avoiding spoilers is fine, but I'm very curious of like, what are you gonna do? You're a Veilguard, so is this a linear story, or is this you're gonna be a center hub and you're gonna do some extraction missions or whatever and then come back? That's what I'm curious about.
So they talked about this a
Dragon Age.
little bit in interviews, but like they mentioned that it's not going to be a fully open world role-playing game, but it's going to be almost like more open zone, like something like Rise of the Tomb Raider or something like that, where you have like small open zones that have side quests and things to do in them, but you've also kind of got the linear story path there as well. So there's going to be things to do beyond the main story. In fact, they made it sound like there's a lot of side things to do if you want to do them outside the main story. But they also made it sound like it's going to be very easy to mainline if you just want to do that too. Whereas because that's a big departure from Inquisition, because Inquisition was known for having giant maps.
Yes.
That with like big open sections with like a bajillion quests in them. So I think this is actually like a refreshing change of pace, because I think myself and a lot of people thought that Inquisition was just too long and had too much stuff in it. So, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, but like, I think more focused RPGs is a good thing.
I think so too. Stuff. Yeah. I think it's really hard to pull off an open world RPG that's fulfilling, that's very direct, full of direction or directionless, whoever you want it. What's more fun to you? I think it's easier, at least for a development team, to execute a more focused a game in general. I'm not even talking about RPG, just game. So yeah, that's good to know. And I think not just BioWare, but even the Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed Shadows saying, hey, this is gonna be a smaller game than Valhalla, is like you kind of learned your lesson on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
that we don't need fluff. We just need a very fun but like a little bit more direction, a little more focus in the content for the game. So yeah,
or it's just one of those things where it's like it's okay to have a ton of side content for those people that want to do it, but just like just understand that most people who play a game like this, I'm not even talking about like hardcore Dragon Age fans, because I think the majority of people who end up picking up a game like this are going to be just people playing the series for the first time, and a lot of them are going to either mainline it or do some side missions, but for the most part they're going to want to get through the story as quickly as possible. And I think I think it's better that to at least cater more towards that, because I kind of miss the days of having like 10 to 20 hour role playing games, like
me too,
like Chrono Trigger, or even like indie stuff like Cosmic Star Heroine and stuff. So I like the fact that we're seeing a resurgence of like, not every role playing game needs to be Persona 5 at 100 hours, and that's okay.
Persona 5 is deliberate with its 100 hours. I think we're more thinking of open world fluffy game. 100 hours. It doesn't need to be like that.
I mean, that's just how I felt about The Witcher. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like
no,
The Witcher 3,
I completely understand that. Yeah, for sure. Cool. Before we get into questions, Ryan, I do have something else I want to mention.
Sure.
So actually it was released yesterday, and people should go check out. It was a new interview with Todd Howard, the head of Bethesda Game Studios. If anyone knows Mr. Matty Plays on YouTube, he's a very big Bethesda, you could say an influencer. He kind of started there in the Bethesda realm, and he's kind of done many other gaming related content.
I was gonna say he releases like a Fallout video almost every week.
Yeah, no, that's his bread and butter is Fallout and Elder Scrolls and so on and so forth. But he's kind of expanded out now. But anyways, he got an interview with Todd Howard in like just kind of the present and the future of its Bethesda games and Bethesda Game Studios. And I went through this interview twice. It's an hour long, and it's filled with so much information that I think people try to summarize it in a tweet, and you really can't. It's it's very rich with information. So I'm going to go through some snippets of it, Ryan. And if you have any opinion, just let me know. Sure. Any response. So let me go through it. So we know, coming from Todd, from even the Kind of Funny interview, more Fallout projects are coming.
Yeah. That's a no-brainer. Of course it is.
That's a no-brainer. It's 2 Fallout projects, not Fallout 5. It's other projects, literally other projects.
Well, we know because of the NVIDIA leak.
And the NVIDIA leak as well. Yeah, we definitely know that. But he is not ready to announce them until they're close to release. That's kind of the impression I got from Todd's answer with Maddie, is that, hey, we have these Fallout projects. We're not going to announce them now and release them a year later. We're going to announce them pretty close to launch. So it might be a month or 2 before.
Which makes sense considering what projects we know they're working on.
Yes. So there you go. That's the Fallout projects. And then Fallout 76, they're really happy with it right now, Ryan. They're ecstatic. Most popular than it has ever been. There's an internal roadmap that with many years ahead with Fallout 76. And I think this was interesting. They're doing a map expansion, with Skyline Valley, right?
Yep. That just came out this week, I think.
And he says map expansions are more meaningful. So I think expect more of that in the future with Fallout 76. So if you like Fallout 76, I do enjoy dabbling in it myself. And it's not going to go away anytime soon, by the way.
No, it just sounds like it's the mainline Fallout thing. They're kind of using the Elder Scrolls Online playbook for this one.
For sure.
Elder Scrolls Online is to keep people sated until the next Elder Scrolls game eventually comes out, and I think they're doing the same thing with this with Fallout.
Yes, definitely. And then also, Bethesda will continue to update their games for years and years. So Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76, but even Starfield, and then upcoming Bethesda games, they want to support these games for very long term versus what they did before. And even Todd said that they wish they supported Fallout 4 and even Skyrim, even longer. So I thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, now you're seeing kind of less of a single player contained experience, but more of a like, oh, let's update it, every now and then type of game. I know Skyrim's been updated, but he really said, it's like, I wish we did more for that universe.
Well, especially because they only had like 2 expansions for it, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like he wanted to do more because like he talked about Starfield, how they wanted to do like multiple expansions for Starfield, I think he was saying. So like a yearly expansion for Starfield every year kind of thing.
That's correct. Yeah, Starfield will like that's what he's looking forward to, is that we expect a yearly expansion for Starfield for the foreseeable future. They have Shattered Space coming out, but they also are planning for the next one for next year. So that's what they just have in their mind right now with Starfield. And then just let me wrap up on here with Elder Scrolls. So he mentioned Elder Scrolls 6 a little bit here. Not much information out there. They're working on it, of course. They're developing it. But he was about to answer about long-term support for Elder Scrolls 6. And I was like, with Elder Scrolls 6, yeah, I'll stop there. So there's definitely something else going on with Elder Scrolls 6. So expect a longer term support for that game once it's released. It sounds like going to be a pretty cool, mechanic going on with that game. So please be excited.
Well, they gotta have something in there without like the dragon shouts and stuff, because that's last Elder Scrolls game. They got to do something unique this time. It's not going to be Oblivion portals either. It'll be something else.
Yeah. So I'm very curious about that game, but of course, we won't see that for a while.
The fun fact was, Garrett, when it was originally announced, we joked, it's going to be out by 2026, jokingly, like not expecting it to be out before then. It'll be lucky if it's out by 2026, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I'm imagining longer than that at this point.
2027, 2028, probably.
Yeah, 2027 if we're lucky with this game. So, yeah, they're working on it, though. Okay, last thing with Fallout. So, Maddie had a question about older Fallout games, just classic Fallout games like Fallout 1 and 2. Do you guys intend to put any modernization behind it or anything like that? And Todd's like, no, we're not going to expect any kind of rehash or modernization on the classic Fallout games. We just want them playable on PC. So just to let people know about that.
Yeah. It was a cool idea to maybe have them go back and do those at some point, but like it just doesn't sound like they really want to do that.
Yeah. It's not just that. It's just like, they have so much work at Bethesda. They can't prioritize something like that to have like a long-term game. Here's some other things. So Maddie tried to question Todd in a sense of like, oh, is there going to be like, do you think of a side spin-off game of Elder Scrolls or Fallout? Think of like a single player immersive storytelling game rather than an open world RPG, but more focused, smaller chunks or whatever. And Todd responded saying, hey, people want a mainline open world game like Skyrim. So we're not going to go off and try to spin off a different idea or hire a team to do that. We would rather put it in the context within our games that are already like a platform. So like Starfield and Skyrim, it's like, hey, we have this game. Do we want this other spin-off kind of content? It's like, well, that will be an expansion. That's literally what Starfield's Shattered Space kind of feels like. It feels like more of a first-person survival horror simulation kind of game and less so of an open-world game. So I thought that was interesting to hear from Todd himself, that you don't expect spin-offs, but expect like smaller pieces of content within the platforms of the live open world RPGs themselves.
Yeah, almost like turning their games into live service games in a lot of ways.
Yes. He talked a lot about Starfield, but let me go through this real quick. So, Shattered Space, it's going to be a separate area, by the way, Ryan. It's very similar to Far Harbor with Fallout 4. So it's a brand new, you're going to go light years away to a totally different area in space, and you're going to have your own world and quest line for Shattered Space.
Yeah, so, which makes sense. That's kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah,
a lot of their DLCs are like that too. Like even the going back to Fallout 3 with the pit and Operation Anchorage, all those were unique locations.
Yeah, definitely. And then Todd is a huge believer on their custom engine. So Elder Scrolls 6 is based the technology is based off of Starfield.
Yeah.
So don't expect anything different from their engines or improving their engines what I think of. They're gonna keep what they're doing, and I think that's a smart thing to do, just because of they have a dedicated team for the engine, but also it's a good platform for their creators and for the creation kit that got recently released in Starfield, and just with their games in general. So yeah, they don't expect anything different from that.
So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is what I'm hearing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And did you know that mods on Starfield on console can go up to 100 gigabytes?
Of course they can.
So
of course they can.
Now we can get some insane type of mods on console, because you can't do that. It was 1 or 2 gigabytes with Skyrim on console, so you can't really do much. But in Starfield, you're gonna do some serious stuff there.
You're just gonna have a whole bunch of uncompressed assets in there, Garret, and everything's gonna look super, super pretty. But then make the game run at 20 frames a second.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then also just the last thing to note, Todd Howard said there are 5 teams in the Bethesda Game Studios company. So you got the Fallout 76 team, you got the Starfield team working on Starfield Shattered Space.
Yeah.
You got the team working on Elder Scrolls 6. You got a team working on external collaborators and connections.
So Fortnite.
Yeah. So there you go. And then the 5th team is the mobile team. So those are the teams kind of segmented off for the Bethesda Game Studios.
Nice.
And I think that's pretty much it from the interview, man. There was just so much.
Yeah.
About
it's
Bethesda
a full hour and 20 or something, right? So
yeah.
So
I just had to go through it and see what you thought of it.
Of course.
Looks like more and more of I'm excited for Shattered Space personally. I need to go back and finish off the mainline Starfield game now, especially now it's 60 frames on console, so
yeah,
it's gonna look beautiful. But anyways,
it'll come out at some
go.
point this year. So I'm blanking on it. I don't think we have a release date for that yet.
Yeah, we don't have a release date yet, but it's gonna be later this year.
Right.
They said 2024.
All the Microsoft. Now that I think about it, all the Microsoft first party stuff this year, just none of it has dates. That doesn't have a date.
So weird.
Indiana Jones doesn't have a date. Avowed doesn't have a date, and they're all supposed to be this year. So, which is weird. It's weird to me.
Please be excited.
Please be excited. Thank you, Garret. But let's hear from the NPCs, the non-podcast characters, Garret, because we got some questions this week. Starting with Savoy Prime, aka Ron, who asks, 2 out of 3 games I'm interested in. I'm in. He's talking about the 2 of the 3 games that we were going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
So, what's the hype level for Dragon Age after the gameplay reveal? Also, do you think that Expedition 33 has the potential to being one of the best RPGs we've had in a while? So I think we talked about it a little bit, Garret, but I think my hype levels for Dragon Age are much higher than they were before, and I think they're as high as any other BioWare game. To which to say, I'm pretty excited about it. But where's your hype level? I don't think I asked your hype check.
I'm excited. I love the first game. I love Origins. And then, as you said, after this gameplay trailer, I really enjoyed what I saw. I'm curious. I'm still curious about as I said, the flow in the core of the game, and I want to watch a little bit more of that before I'm fully in, day one. But it's an EA game, so I can always wait 12 months and get it for free via Game Pass. So
there's that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited for this game for sure.
Yeah. And as far as Expedition 33, I think by calling it, saying it has the potential to be one of the best RPGs we've had in a while, I think that's too much pressure to put on a game like this currently. Like, I think,
yes.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's good to be excited about a game like this, but like, that's a lot of weight to put on a game like this right now. Where it looks really cool. It has a lot of promise, but like, I don't know if I'm ready to call it in the same echelon as one of the best role-playing games we've had in a long time.
That's a rough one. It's their first game. It's their first game that they're developing. I think it was just a good breath of fresh air to see a kind of more action-based, you can say Western style graphic game, but it has turn-based mechanics. I think that's just new, and I think that's surprising to us. So I think that's why I'm a little bit more excited about it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to judge the actual game itself based off of just that. I want to actually see what's going on. I don't find this any different than any other AA, budget. It's going to be a budget game, so I'm not going to expect super high expectations off of it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. It's like, it looks cool, but it's their first game.
Exactly.
So.
That's why it's good to have like tempered expectations, because I mean, look what happened with Sea of Stars. Because Sea of Stars,
that's true.
Everyone was like hyped over the moon with Sea of Stars, and then when it finally came out, there were the people that were really, really into it, but like Ron's the perfect example of a person that was just too hyped for a game like Sea of Stars, because he ended up being a little disappointed. But he doesn't hate it, but he talks about it every week, where it's just it's more disappointing more than anything.
Oh, okay, it's fine. I think it's a good game.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not their first game, so I mean, it's not apples
Sure.
and apples to oranges comparison, but it's like, it has a very similar track record to me, which is why, again, I'm trying to temper expectations a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, next question comes to us from Skycatcher Reflecting, who asked the question, what RPGs are you hoping to see at Nintendo's Direct tomorrow? So, obviously, the sequel to Various Daylife, Garrett, is what I'm really hoping for. I'm hoping they go all in with the hype train that is Various Daylife, and no, I said that simply because that Rybo would say that.
That got me.
Yeah.
Various Daylife 2.
Yes. or Various Day Lives.
Oh, Various Day. No, I love it. That should be the sequel.
Yeah. I love that Riley, of course, outs Ron immediately. It's like he's playing Sea of Stars right now.
Okay, nice.
But then Ron actually chimes in after hearing what we had to say about it. Same Ryan was worried, but the gameplay trailer really sold me. Okay.
Cool.
That seems fair. Yeah.
But anyways, Various Day Lives, I think the sequel will be a pachinko machine. That's where I'm going for with it. How can it get worse? It could be a darn pachinko game. So
look what you've done to this podcast, Rybo. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is too much.
Oof, we're exploding everywhere.
What do we actually think will be at the Nintendo Direct tomorrow? I think number one. This has already kind of been confirmed by Nate the Hate, but I would have said this even if he hadn't said anything, because I figured this was a long time coming after seeing it getting rated everywhere and stuff like that. Fantation from Apple Arcade finally coming to Switch and
got him.
Maybe other platforms. Finally, maybe seeing Mistwalker actually come back.
they're alive. The corpse is rising ever so slightly. We'll see how that goes.
Because that's a game I really wanted to play, but I was not signing up from Apple Arcade just to play.
I refuse that. No, I refuse Apple. Android Arcade, whatever. It's a subscription.
Apple Arcade.
There's Android subscription too. There's some Google thing,
but not for that. But so yeah, I think that's like the biggest lock is Fantasia as far as role-playing games are concerned. Other than that, Garrett, is tomorrow the day we see Fire Emblem?
God, I hope so.
I feel like it's put up or shut up this time, right? Like if it's not there,
exactly.
It ain't coming out on Switch, or maybe not at all.
I would be very surprised if Fire Emblem 4 remake did not show up. I would be very surprised. Just because if it's already been made and it's not really for Switch 2, then what are you doing? Like, there's a gap here now. It's been a while since we had not a while, but it's been over a year since we had a Fire Emblem game, so I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect timing to kind of announce and release this, and right before the Switch 2.
Yeah, because it comes out this fall or this holiday, or what if they waited till January with it, but they announced it
fine.
now? It would be fine too. And at that point, it will have been 2 years since Engage came out, because it came out in January of 2023. So yeah, I think it's perfect timing. And again, like, I feel like that game is dead in the water if they release it when the Switch 2 comes out.
That's my other line of thinking too, is that if they have this, it's a remake. It's a Fire Emblem 4 remake, so it's not going to be. It's really for the fans. Again, I wouldn't say it's for newcomers.
Right. Well, maybe it is though, because again, like, that point in the story, it was like a good entry for beginners, because I remember reading about it, and it wasn't really like it had like it introduced a new set of characters, and it wasn't really tied to Fire Emblem 1 through 3. So I think it actually is probably an okay place for people to start, at least story wise. And I imagine they're going to make the combat easier than the original version, which that game is very hard.
Yeah. I'm just curious when the next time they're going to go through a Fire Emblem game and it's going to be new. And it's not going to be like Engage where it's fan servicey or a remake. It's going to be another new mainline Fire Emblem game.
I think it'll be
like
the first ones for Switch 2. I think that's what they'll do.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm expecting it. And if I don't see it, it's just like, this is not going to come to existence.
Right. Same here. Like, if it's not at this direct, I don't think it's even I don't think it's ever going to be released.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Fire Emblem, we got that. Any other RPGs that you're kind of thinking? The other one, Dragon Quest HD.
Dragon Quest is a big one in my head too. Yeah. 3 2D HD. That's what it's called.
Although they kind of teased on Twitter with the logo for it that it might actually be like the first 3 games done in HD 2D instead of just the third one.
That would be cool. That would be really cool to hear.
Yeah,
and go
because they kind of like made a teaser for that particular game on the poster, but it's like talking about the Erdrick trilogy, which is the first 3 games in the Dragon Quest series. So it might be that. I still have my prediction, Garrett, that I'm holding on to from our predictions episode, which we'll finally be able to talk about on next week's episode because of the fact that the Direct will happen by then. That Lunar, we will actually see it at the Nintendo Direct with a console version of the game. I still think that's a thing.
Sure.
No, because again, we talked about it on that episode when we did the predictions. It's just like all signs point to it being a thing. The trademark got renewed. The developer said, "Hey, just so you know, expect more Lunar before the year's over." Like, I think all signs point to it being here as like in like even like the slideshow or in Nintendo Switch highlights or something like that.
What was the developer for that? The one that did Grandia as well, right?
Yeah. So Game Arts is the developer. And Gung Ho. Is the publisher, and we just got the Grandia collection on PlayStation, so it's just like
and Xbox,
and that was on Switch for a while, which is why like it makes sense to announce it here for Switch, and then probably for other consoles too. Whether it's just a re-release of the first game from the mobile version, or even like a God forbid, a package of 1 and 2, like from the PlayStation. That would be awesome.
Question for you, Ryan. Triangle Strategy 2.
No.
What do you think of that?
I think that'll never happen because that game didn't sell super well, and Square Enix basically told us that they spent a whole bunch of money to cancel a bunch of games that they had in development because they didn't sell well. Okay. So
sure.
I actually think Square Enix is going to be pretty light at this showcase. I think we'll see Dragon Quest.
No, it makes sense.
And I don't know if you saw this, Garrett, but Nate the Hate basically came out and said Square Enix is actually publishing Fantasian on Switch.
That's what he said. Yes, yeah.
So that's just weird to me to begin with, but like I think those will be like the 2 Square Enix things we even see at this showcase. Barring like maybe another PS1 port. Maybe like Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered or something.
Do you think any Switch Online stuff? They really don't. They rarely don't do this at Directs, the Switch Online stuff.
I think we will get Switch Online stuff, but there's not going to be any role-playing games there.
Yeah, it's going to be different
Yeah.
stuff. Okay, cool.
Because I think we're at the point with Switch Online where there is currently nothing announced for Switch Online as far as like a roadmap or anything to be excited about. And like this direct is coming out around the time where like people's subscriptions are lapsing, because this is of course like the yearly time when
September or whatever, right?
Yeah. So like before that'll be like, this will be the last time they have to promote the service before that reset period. So they usually always in the summer showcase always have like 1 or 2 announcements for Switch Online, but I don't think there are going to be any RPGs. I mean, we could have like Diddy Kong Racing or something like that, but I don't think there will be role playing games at all.
I agree with you. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, God forbid. Where's Metroid Zero Mission on the Switch, Nintendo? What is going on here? We need it. It's the only Metroid game missing from NSO at this point. It's Metroid Zero
That's
Mission.
the GBA game.
Yes.
Right? Oh
it's
my gosh.
The GBA remake of Metroid 1.
And it's on my 3DS. I see it.
And it's one of... No. Metroid Fusion.
Is it not Zero Mission?
Oh. It's not Zero Mission. Zero Mission, though, is probably one of the best Metroid games of all time. It's one of my favorite games ever. But it's the only one they haven't put on Switch, and I'm just like, what are they doing? Because they have Fusion there. And they even brought Metroid 2 from the Game Boy.
Do you imagine some sort of port to the Switch, like an older RPG coming to the Switch? Imagine Baldur's Gate 3 announced for the Nintendo Switch.
They could barely get that running
crazy.
on Series S. How are they going to get that to run on Switch?
You know, I've seen miracles on Switch development, so I can only imagine. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just saying, is there any other RPGs you're thinking of that could be ported to the Switch before Switch 2?
That's the thing. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank here because like there's just not many. Like
there's not many
that are current gen.
Elden Ring
that haven't been ported. Just get out of here. Get out of here with that.
Cloud version, I guess.
Actually, that cloud version is actually more probable than a native version of Elden Ring for Switch, Garrett. That would be hilarious.
I think that would be hilarious too. Yeah, I can't think of much of other RPGs. They're not gonna do any Xenoblade, at least.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, what if they finally had Xenos? I can't even say it with a straight face.
You know, Monolith has been quiet for some time. Maybe they do some sort of teaser for their next project.
Maybe. But I feel like their next project's gonna be on Switch 2 though, and I don't think we're seeing Switch 2 games at all here.
Yeah.
Except maybe Metroid Prime 4, which might be on both. But that might be.
Did you see Baten Kaitos surprisingly came out on Steam today?
Yes, it just came out of nowhere. I'm also just like, wait,
I'm very surprised about that.
It's on Steam, but like, put it other places too. What PlayStation and Xbox? What's going on here?
I think, they went through the verification process and Steam's like, yeah, sure, we'll drop it now.
Yeah, that's true. Because it took them like 10 minutes after it was out to be like, actually post the video saying, oh, by the way, it's out now.
Yeah, and it's on sale. So people can go get those 2 games for a discount now. But yeah, no, I can't think of any other RPGs to note in this direct.
No, I think this particular direct yard is probably like, I don't envy the Nintendo Drive crew because this was probably like one of the hardest directs to actually predict.
Yeah, because it's going to be second half of games before Switch 2.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Not only that, but I think like we're actually probably going to have some surprises of games that we didn't even think about coming to Switch at this showcase, including role-playing games. So.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining, like some sort of port or whatever new game. We just don't know.
Yeah. I still think like Persona 3 would be maybe, but I feel like it's...
Persona 3 is more of a Switch 2 deal, Yeah,
that's why I think like a lot of those like current gen role-playing games are probably just waiting for Switch 2 at this point. So. Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough Nintendo talk. Let's move on to Yarden's question, who says, unpopular opinion, but every time I see Avowed shown, it makes me want to play it even less and less. It looks cool, but I feel like it has stayed a little too far from what the initial reveal showed for the game. That's the game I want. Am I a bad person for thinking so?
Yes.
No, you're not a bad person, Yarden. We just disagree with you. That's okay.
I don't even remember much of the beginning. It was like kind of like you're in a cave. You had some magic. You had a sword.
It was a cinematic trailer that made it look like it was Elder Scrolls.
That's yeah.
But that's like kind of what we saw during the gameplay showcase we just watched.
Yeah. I mean, it literally was. I wouldn't say just like Skyrim, but yeah,
No,
it
but,
definitely
like,
has some
close.
tones but it's set in a, let's say the sandbox is like it's like an outer worlds where it's contained. It has open zones. It's not open world. And then there's just, you kind of just go on a little path there. But yeah, Yarden, it's fine. You don't have to get it.
Yeah.
You don't have to play it.
It's okay, Yarden. We're totally cool. We can still be friends.
Go play your. I don't know what you play.
Yarden plays a lot of games.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Naganchaka asks, I have no idea what Dragon Age is. What kind of RPG is it? Is it better than Xenoblade Chronicles, which is impossible?
Oh my God, Naganchaka.
Of course it's better than Xenoblade Chronicles. What are you talking about?
I mean, okay, let's not compare apples to oranges here. All right.
I know they're very different games.
Dragon Age Origins, I think that's required playing. That's like a video, like if you're into games and if you're into RPGs, like that's a required playing game. Yeah. It's just seminal. Yeah, I would just play Dragon Age Origins. Naganchaka.
Although I would have said the same thing about Mass Effect, but a certain someone here has never played Mass Effect.
I've never heard of Mass Effect. What are you talking about?
Get the fudge out of here! Oh my God, we're gonna have words later this year, Karen. If you don't play,
so
if
okay,
you don't find a time for you to play Mass Effect at some point.
Hold on, Ryan. Are you saying the first one or all three of them?
Well, once you play the first one, you're going to want to play the other two, Garrett.
Oh, my gosh. Well, Dragon Age is not like that, though. It's like Dragon Age Origins, and you're kind of good. You're kind of okay.
Good point. Because it's you're right. They don't build off each other the same way as the Mass Effect trilogy does.
Well, I'll get to Mass Effect trilogy eventually, and sometime in the near future.
I will assign it to you. Don't you worry. Don't you worry your little precious little head over there, Garrett. You will be assigned Mass Effect at some point.
I do have it on Steam. It's on my wonderful Steam Deck.
Well, it's also on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, but it's on my wonderful Steam Deck too. So
yeah, I mean, you have plenty of options to play it.
Plenty of options.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Last question comes to us from Riley King, who asks, out of the three games we talked about, which one are you each excited about most? And then he has a follow-up question: as a newer role-playing game player, which one of these would you recommend I play first? So we didn't go through the three of these, Garrett, but like. So we'll talk about which of the three are you personally most excited about? Avowed, Visions of Mana, or Dragon Age: The Veilguard?
I'm personally most excited with Avowed, but that's just because I've been kind of into this game since it got released. As Yarden said, it kind of does remind me of Skyrim, but at the same time, it has that Obsidian trademark and foundation, which I really enjoy in these games. So yeah, I'm personally excited most with Avowed. Dragon Age, I'm optimistic about it. I want to see more. And then Visions of Mana looks like it's kind of a slam dunk RPG in a way. Like it's meant what it's meant to do, and it's gonna serve the audience that it's gonna serve. So yeah, that's just what I think. What about you, Ryan?
So personally, from Ryan Turver's personal point of view, the one of the three of these that I'm the most personally excited about is Visions of Mana.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
I mean the Mana series is a series I've always loved. I know those games are good, and I can already tell by watching the trailer that we saw, even from the 3.5 minutes that we saw, I know that game's going to be good just by looking at that trailer. So like it's a known quantity, like you talked about, Garrett. Like I know what I'm getting with that game. And I know that game is going to be like a solid 8.5 to 9 out of 10 kind of game.
Right.
So, that's why I'm personally the most hyped about it of the three. And also too, it's just been so long since we've had like a brand new Mana game that wasn't a remake. Like I am very excited about it. And Dragon Age, I think, is a close second. Cause again, like I got the BioWare vibes from that gameplay showcase for Dragon Age. And
yes.
BioWare has always been, ever since the original Xbox days, my favorite video game company. So I am a big BioWare stan, and I am very excited for this. I'm just trying to temper my expectations because, again, after what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, after what happened with Anthem, I do want to make sure I'm not like overly hyped for it because it's BioWare, because of the pedigree, especially because it's a brand new team of people making this one versus all those other games that I loved from them. So I'm going in with tempered expectations, and that's the main reason it kind of sits in second place. And then Avowed, I'm very excited about it, but it's definitely the third place of these three. But that's just, it comes down to the type of game it is, that like open zone or open world kind of games are a little less appealing to me than the other two games listed here.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So that's just me personally. So,
yeah.
And Riley, as far as what RPG of these three you'd recommend for brand new players, I actually think that Visions of Mana will also be probably the most accessible one of the three for brand new
interesting.
Because again, first of all, it's not like Dragon Age, where Dragon Age, that story is built on top of three other games. Yeah, it's very connected to those other games, especially Inquisition. If you don't play Inquisition, you're probably just like, who are these characters and what is going on and why do I care about Solus? Like, there's a bunch of story stuff there that I think is tougher if you don't play those other games. So that definitely rules that out for a new player from me. And then I guess you can kind of take your pick between Avowed and Visions of Mana, and it just depends on like which one appeals to you the most, I guess, between the two of them. But I would say, as a new player, I think Visions of Mana will probably be the more accessible of the two. Mm-hmm. That's just me.
I agree.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of the RPG Cave. But before we go, Garrett, of course, we need to thank all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music over on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can find the link tree to his music, Purple Monkey Entertainment, at linktr.ee/pme/JIB. And Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabes. Links to all of our ultimate producers are always found in the description of our podcast. Please go out there and support them as they support us over at Carpool Gaming. Our platinum producers, Robby Bobby Miller, Tim Paullin, Smokin Joe, and Toxic. And our gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, BobLoblaw, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, CowboyDangerD, CrocoKyle, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, Drellesh, Emily O'Kelly, Hoppel, Jan32, Patrice Mallette, Peje EP, Samuel Nessling, Shane Erickson, Tech Mike, and Tim Aulph. Huge thank you once again to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. And if you want to head on over there, head on over to there, choose the tier that's right for you, and hop in the car with us for some awesome content. And now, Garrett, plugs go.
You can follow me on Twitter, @BlindExplosion. You can also find me in the Discord. I'm lurking. I'm reading. I actually was thinking of a new little handheld in the PC gaming space. Oh. There's a big sale going on with the emulation handheld Chinese devices, so might need to grab one of those because it's been a while since I've done that. But anyways, that's where my head's at.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Very nice. As for me, you always find me over on Twitter, aka X, @Ryan Turfer. And you also find us on X @Carpool Gaming. Right here, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Over also twitch.tv/Carpool Gaming Live. And of course, podcast services around the globe. So for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turfer. This has been the 142nd level of the RPG Cave. And we're out.
Bye-bye.